From 12 News, this is Newsmakers.
Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. Senator Elizabeth Warren is one of the most prominent Democrats in the U.S. Senate. On Wednesday, Warren visited UMass Dartmouth for a town hall, and before the event, she sat down with my colleague, 12 News politics editor Ted Nesi.
Senator Warren, thanks for taking the time to sit down with me while you're here at UMass Dartmouth today.
Thank you for having me. It's a delight to see you.
So let's start with what's going on in Washington right now. Big debate among Democrats about this reconciliation budget bill. And just in the last 24 hours, I saw a report on Axios that Senator Manchin is suggesting he won't support potentially more than $1.5 trillion in the budget bill, which is a lot less, obviously, than the White House has put forward. You know Congress well at this point. How do you write a budget bill that satisfies everyone from AOC to Senator Manchin in just a few weeks?
Look, that's the whole point. We are negotiating, we are talking, people are pushing their issues back and forth. But I look at it this way. We need to think about the things from the ground up that we need to invest in. Not just a top-line dollar figure, but what's it going to take? You know, we wouldn't need a huge reconciliation package if we've been making these investments all along. So take childcare. Right now, 1 in 4 women who is not in the workforce says that the reason is childcare. That means it's not only really hard on them, really hard on their careers, will have long-term implications, even reaching out to their retirement, but it also is hard on our economy. Women who can't get back to work if they can't have childcare. So we need to make an investment in childcare, an investment that is good for our babies, good for our mamas and daddies, and also an investment that raises the wages of childcare workers and preschool teachers.
Well, and to your point, it came to your mind first when I talked about the legislative process. Is the childcare investment in the bill a sort of a red line for you, the thing you go to the mat for? I know there's a lot of things you like in the bill, but is that a top priority for you? Is this?
Absolutely. We must have a child care bill, and we must have a child care bill so that parents have access, so that it is affordable, and so that it is high quality. Now, I'll try to do some of the others really quick. We also need home and community-based care. You know, there are a lot of folks, they're not home with a little one, they're having to help out an elderly parent, for example. Getting some home and community-based care lets people stay in their homes longer, lets people who are in combined families be able to get out and get to work. We need to expand Medicare. Vision, dental, hearing, lower the age to 62. That's all on the table. And then the really big one in terms of dollars and the future, we got to fight back against the climate crisis. You know, I don't have to push that hard when I'm down here in Dartmouth. People see firsthand the effects of climate change, and we need to be building more resilience. We need to be shifting to clean energy. We need to be cleaning carbon out of the air. We got a lot of things, a lot of work we need to do on multiple fronts. So, a lot to be done.
You know, there's there'll be some viewers, even some who like each individual thing you just mentioned, who worry about the price tag. They see gas prices are up, other signs of inflation, and I know there's debate around that, but it does make the average household nervous. What do you say to people who are worried that maybe this is biting off too much at once, even if they agree with you on the priorities?
So what's important is how we pay for this, because I believe we should pay for this. And let me just give you 3 ideas. First one, a wealth tax, 2-cent tax on families with more than $50 million. You've
been talking about that for a while now.
I've been talking about this for a long time, or some variation on it. We can raise trillions of dollars depending on how we do it. Let me give you another one, and that's a real corporate profits tax. This is a tax on when a giant corporation like Amazon stands up and says to its shareholders, says to the public, they made $11 billion in profits last year and turned around and paid 0 in taxes. That is wrong. So what I have is a proposal right now that says once you're above $100 million in profits, you got to pay at least 7%.
So profits, not revenue.
Profits, not revenues, profits. You got to pay 7% of what you publicly report. Do you know how much money that would raise?
I don't.
about $700 billion over the space of 10 years. That's a long way toward $3.5 trillion that we need. And then I'll mention just one more. That third one is that we need to enforce the tax laws. Now, right now, there's pretty strong enforcement against people who get a paycheck for a living because it all gets reported to the government, right? But the very, very wealthy increasingly seem to think that paying taxes is optional. And the problem is the IRS has just been hollowed out. They don't have the money, they don't have the skilled people to be able to go after the folks who cheat on their taxes and know that they've got very little chance of getting caught because the IRS doesn't have the crack teams because they don't have the budget. So this is one of those, you spend a little money to make a lot of money. We put more money into the IRS and get them focused on the tax cheats at the top, and we have the opportunity to bring in a lot of money. Those three things more than cover what we want to spend on child care, on Medicare, and on climate.
We'll see if we can convince Senator Manchin over the coming weeks on that. Let's turn to military matters.
Sure.
You serve on the Armed Services Committee.
I do.
And the chairman, Jack Reed of Rhode Island, has said he plans to hold a hearing soon on the evacuation of Afghanistan and how that went. What do you want to hear from the generals and Pentagon officials about how that went down in the last couple weeks, the evacuation?
Well, obviously, we'd like to have more details about what happened. I particularly would like to continue a line of questions that I've been asking for years now, and that is how it is that we put so much money into the Afghan army, how it is, I mean, we've spent nearly $1 trillion on these folks, and how it is that we armed them, how it is that we equipped them, how it is that we put so much time into training them, and then when we said, okay, we're ready now to leave Afghanistan, that they laid down their arms and turned away. I want to understand what it is that our generals weren't watching over the last 20 years that would cause that to be such a surprise.
Well, between covering Chairman Reed and covering you, I follow the Armed Services Committee. You've had a lot of hearings in Afghanistan over the years. Do you feel the committee was misled, or do you just feel they just didn't have good information even at the Pentagon?
You know, one of the things that really frustrated me sitting on Armed Services has for the last several years, every time the generals would come in from Afghanistan, whether it was in open hearing or whether we were getting some kind of classified briefing. Basically, I asked the same kind of questions. And that was, so where are we relative to a year ago, 5 years ago? Over and over and over, I would be the one who would have to point out that we controlled less land than we had before. The poppy crop, the heroin crop, was bigger than it had been before. The movement back and forth across the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan, including letting terrorists run back and forth, was more active than ever. That corruption was endemic in the country, that the leaders didn't enjoy the support of the people. I asked them about each one of these, and the generals each time reluctantly would say, well, yes, it's true it's worse on this, it's true it's worse on that, it's true it's worse on that, but we're turning the corner. I had so many generals tell me over and over and over for years now that we were turning the corner in Afghanistan, that it just felt like we're going in a circle. And that's the part that was really frustrating to me. Nobody ever held accountable. Nobody ever dragged back in to say, wait a minute, you were the guy who was here 2 years ago saying we turned the corner. Nope, that guy is now gone, moved on, got his battle ribbons, moved out.
Being a skeptic then in the committee hearings, were you, I assume sadly unsurprised when you watched how the evacuation unfolded, or did it go worse than even you had expected from taking part in all that?
The collapse of the Afghan army went even faster than I thought. I had borne down for a long time on our generals about the quality of that army, and they had sworn over and over and over it was better, it was stronger, they knew how to fight, they would fight. And I think that much of what happened near the end was premised on the fact that there still would be at least some remnants of an Afghan Army that had been well trained, that had been well equipped, that they would still be there. And obviously that didn't happen.
So I want to ask you a bigger picture question. This is the first time you and I have sat down since your presidential campaign. And you're not the first Massachusetts senator to run for president. We saw the man who held the same seat you have now, Ted Kennedy, ran in 1980. And after that, he seemed to shift and say, I'm going to focus on the Senate. And then he had made quite a legacy legislatively in the years after that. I'm wondering, is that a model for you now that you did not become president in 2020? Or do you still think, no, that might be the direction I go in the future? Or has it refocused you on the Senate when you think of how Ted Kennedy went through the same thing?
You know, I have always thought of this a little bit differently. I never thought of running for the president when I came to the Senate. You know, I didn't have an older brother who had been president, another older brother who had run. It's a little different. For me, it was always one of the core sets of changes that we need to help people here in Massachusetts prosper and to help people all across the country. So think about some of the things that Massachusetts is strongest in. One is in healthcare. We do medical research here in Massachusetts that is cutting edge. It's a big part of what we do. Every investment in healthcare, from my perspective, in healthcare research is an investment potentially in Massachusetts, funding NIH, but it's also an investment in our whole nation. Same thing around education. We are an education state. This is a big part of what we produce. You know, we have more colleges in Massachusetts than any other state in the nation. Every investment we make in education is an investment here in Massachusetts, but it also is an investment in America's future. And I see it that way all the way through. When I go down to Washington, I have to say, I am really proud to be from Massachusetts and to have this chance to represent the people of Massachusetts, because I feel like this is not about what can I only do for Massachusetts and it's a zero-sum game and what helps us is going to hurt the other 49 states, DC and Puerto Rico. Right. That instead, it's how as a nation we make the investments in building a future that works for everyone. And that's what I've been trying to do since the first day I got here back in January of 2013. It's what I still do every day. Final question, do you plan to then run for re-election in 2024? Yes. Easy answer. All right, Senator Warren, thanks for sitting down with me today. Good to see you. Thank you. Good to see you too.
When we come back, remembering 9/11 20 years later. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. How that day changed his world forever.
So Matt, what's it like being back here?
It's different. It looks a little bit different, but it feels really good. It's been some time since I've been back here. Unfortunately, just a lot of moving pieces between college and moving around in life, but it feels good to be back and kind of where I grew up and a huge piece of my life started.
20 years goes by a long time, but that's kind of a big number. Have you thought about, wow, how time's gone by?
Oh yeah. All year this year, knowing it was 20 years, it seems like in every year it's, impactful and it's a story and something we'll remember for the rest of our life, but it seems like this year's a little bit different being at 20 years. That's, almost 75% of my entire life right there. So it definitely sticks out a little bit more this year. And yeah, we'll see. I appreciate this opportunity to chat with you, but yeah, 20 years is a big number.
The average age of someone who lost a parent on 9/11 was 9. You were 8, you were going to be 9 just in a couple of months. That's a young age. What was it like for someone that young to go through this? Yeah, it's
from what I remember, of course, a lot of it's blurry, and in certain ways it was a super busy week, couple weeks, months even for that matter, but looking back at it, and when we talk a little bit more about some of the things I saw with my family and how they grieved, I think there's kind of the difference where as a 8-year-old, even 9-year-old at that time, you didn't really understand or comprehend the impact it had on, when everyone says it's tough to lose a loved one, but as a 9-year-old, I don't think you truly understand what that means. So there was a lot of different emotions between sadness and more so confusion. But I think seeing the grieving of my family is really what kind of hit me the most, of being like, holy moly, this is serious. This isn't, you know, this is serious. And I think that's kind of how I understood the grieving part in the process, was with my family, seeing them grieve. But for me as an 8-year-old, it was definitely a little bit confusing and shocking, and not really sure what to do, I think is kind of how I would put it at that point in time.
I think, Matt, too, the other problem is it wasn't a car accident. It wasn't dying from some disease. You know, it was a terrorist attack. All of a sudden, poof, you know, 3,000 people had died. Did that make it more confusing for you because you couldn't put your finger on it?
Yeah, I think so. At that age, and now at my age now, I fully understand. And it's funny because I do a lot of times, of course, when people meet me or find out my story a little bit, they always, I'm so sorry, I can't believe it. And I've always been a big believer in, like, everyone loses someone close to them, whether it's a disease or a car accident. The loss of someone is going to impact someone the same, really. It's losing someone you love. So I've always tried to look at it that way, but at that age, like you said, it was a terrorist attack. It really didn't make any sense. And I think it took me a while for me to truly understand, like, why and how. And that was the toughest part, was there was really no answers for some time. And I think remembering back to that, there was only so much my family could say to me or us in that matter, because we were still trying to put the pieces together of how did this happen, why did it happen, and I think that's the toughest part to kind of get over. So yeah.
It's difficult for anybody, no matter what age you are. As you were getting older, did you try to comprehend what happened, or you just tried to live your life?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not a huge talker all that much, so I definitely tried to just live and, you know, do what I know she would want me to do, and become the man that she wanted me to become. So I really strived at doing that and making everyone proud, always trying to help other people along the way. But I definitely tried to comprehend it on my own. You know, I didn't always try to talk about it with my family. It was more so just me on my own, trying to figure out whether it was reading things online or maybe even talking to others around the situation. But it was definitely something I tried to somewhat move past and just try to be the person that she would want me to be, which I think we've gotten to that point, of course. But yeah, I would definitely say I tried comprehending it more on my own than with other people or even family for that matter.
Probably a hard question to answer. Every parent wants their child to grow up, be happy, be successful. Any idea what your mom's plan might have been for you?
Honestly, I think happiness, wanting me to be happy, that she was always happy. Obviously, we all have our qualms, right? But she was always happy, always a smile on her face, and I think that's definitely who she wanted me. She just wanted me to be happy, no matter what that entailed, right? And I think I've gotten to that point, and you know, I have a great life due to the fact of friends and family that have helped get me. I've also worked, you know, my tail off a little bit to get to that point in life as well. So I think that, and she was a true believer in a family man, and I love my family dearly. I would do anything for them, and we do have a great relationship internally with, you know, her side and my dad's side, of course, all my aunts and uncles. Obviously, over time, like we said, people, you know, go their separate ways. So I wish I've had more time to spend with them. But again, life's always moving. But I think end all be all, she just wanted me to be happy, and I am extremely happy. And you know, that is some of the tough things looking at it as I'm getting older. You know, I can't even imagine if something like this were to happen now at my age, how I would handle it. It'd certainly be a lot different than when I was younger. But, you know, some things I think about sometimes is her not being, you know, at my wedding or seeing my future kids. Those are the things that kind of stick with me, because I know that's what she wanted, you know, family man, kids, and that. So, but yeah, I think overall just being happy.
Was it difficult because you were an only child?
I think so, a little bit more. And again, now I'm thinking about it, we're at year 20, and as I'm getting older and ready for next steps in my life, these things start to come up more. You know, in college, it was her not seeing me play basketball, or, you know, taking me to college and dropping me off and being part of that piece. And now as I'm getting older, and, you know, family's in the books, hopefully someday, who knows what happens, but those things. And of course, I have a lot of friends, and I've been to a lot of weddings, and seeing the true happiness that they get to, you know, feel with their significant others, their family there, is something that sticks with me a little bit more now.
What was the favorite thing you'd like to do with her?
You know, one thing I would love to do with her, you know, and this is again in the future, but at my wedding, you know, have that dance with her, would be something truly I know once that's over with, that I would look back on and wish that she was there for that moment. But you know, right now that's all I can think of probably at this point. Just knowing how that's going to impact me that day when that does happen. But just be with her, And I think that's just sitting and having a conversation, because again, at the age I was at, I was so young. The conversations were few and far between as far as like what kind of conversation. I was only 8. Now as an adult, can talk about work, can talk about life, can talk about really anything. So I wish I kind of had that opportunity to talk about the good and the bad.
So if you had a chance to have dinner with her, just one dinner,
Yeah.
what would the conversation be, since you're talking about conversation?
Yeah, next steps in life, marriage, children, new house, and talk about her, knowing, and that's kind of another area of what I wish I could do now, is talk about her and learn more about her and her experiences growing up as a child and through life, learning why she's such a hard worker, why did she want the 2 jobs or want to do that. Like now having those conversations over a glass of wine or a cocktail would be what I think be super important. Of course, I've spent countless hours talking to my father about, her past, but he only knows his side of her story, right? And same thing with her sisters and brothers, but really getting to sit down and learn more about her and what her childhood and relationships were like with family members is certainly something I would love to just talk about.
I've often thought about this, what that was like being on those planes, knowing that what was happening. Do you ever think about that?
Yeah, ironically, I do when I fly now. It's funny, as I grew up, I was always flying, going to see my father when he was traveling for work, and even just other trips or vacations or whatnot. And I never had a problem with flying up until recently. A lot of this stuff starts to come back, and I start thinking about it. And certainly on flights now, I always run through kind of those scenarios, right? And even as a kid, the teenage years, I remember specifically, almost playing out scenarios of what I would do, like how would I react? Would I try to help? Would I, again. It was one of those kind of teenage, kind of tough guy dreams of, I would stand up and I would do whatever I can to help, but I truly can't imagine the fear or I can't imagine the feeling that those humans faced on those airplanes. So, yeah, it's definitely something I've thought about, but I don't think you can put it into words or really describe it. No one can.
Do you get angry about that day and what happened?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I try to. I would say it's not. Different times, excuse me. So sometimes later at night, or sometimes during the day, but not rarely. I try not to get angry about it because it's in the past. What am I going to get angry about now?
All right, Matt, take me to that day. Yep. You're in the playground when your dad comes.
Yeah, I was in the playground, probably having a good time as usual. And then, if I recall correctly, it was Miss Weber. Just came up to me and was like, hey, your father should have picked you up. You're going home early today. Didn't really know why. She didn't know why. I didn't really ask questions. I'm going home early from school. What's better than that? So, so that was it. She walked me up into her room where I got my lunchbox and everything in my bag, and then met my dad at the front office, who was already there. And I remember, we got into the car, we drove home. It was a very quiet ride home. Wouldn't tell me what is going on, because I don't think he knew truly. I think he just got fed the information and might have had ideas or thoughts that, was it my wife's plane? Was it not my wife's plane? Like, what's going on? So he didn't really tell me anything until we got home, and it was really just he kind of described like what I was about to see is going to be very impactful. Not sure how he was going to take it, but he basically turned the TV on. I don't think he had the words to say. I mean, I don't know what I would tell my 9-year-old child as well if I was in that same situation. But we sat there, we watched the TV together, and it was, again, that's where the confusing part comes in for me as a child. Really had no idea what I was watching or looking at. And we got our stuff together and we went over to my aunt's house where the rest of my family was. And at that time, that was probably the hardest part of the whole thing, was just seeing the grieving that my grandmother and my aunts had. And it was almost like hysteria in a sense. It wasn't like crying. It was yelling and screaming, and there was a lot of emotions. And again, as a 9-year-old, it was really tough to kind of comprehend. But I knew something. It was bigger than just a death. A normal death that we've all dealt with, where sometimes it is, someone's time or a disease takes over, where it's bound to happen. This was something I've never experienced before, and seeing my grandmother grieve and still wonder if she was going to get a call from Renee. That was kind of the few hours we were there of just kind of sitting there taking it all in.
Was your father trying to call her?
Yes, my grandmother, my aunts, my father.
The way you've lived your life, I'm sure your mom is extremely proud of you.
Yep.
And she lives through you.
Yeah, absolutely. She's got the best seat in the house, and there definitely are a lot of moments where I feel her on my shoulder, or something happens where I'm like, thank God that I know that was her. So I definitely, and those bring smiles to my face every time it happens. It happens somewhat often. You know, I always find the clock at 9/11 pretty often, not all the time, but majority of the time. And I know it's just a sign, almost like a hi, how are you? So yeah, I would absolutely think she'd be, you know, happy with where I'm at as a family guy and a man, but still have a long way to go.
Our thanks to Matt Newell for sharing his story. If you missed any of it, or our first half guest, U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren, it's on WPRI.com. I'm Tim White. We'll see you next week on Newsmakers.